Alrighty guys, so we're going to be talking about the Revolutionary War today. So yeah, let's get started on that. Now first of all, of course, we got the sort of background story, that sort of lore behind the Revolutionary War, you know. One of the first major plot points was a period of salutary neglect of the 13 colonies by Britain, where basically the colonies were on their own due to the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution. During this time, the colonies sort of just developed their own unique economies based on the region, and yeah, during this time they became more self-governing while still being proud British loyalists, and at the same time they were also bettering themselves by having a higher life expectancy and also a higher literacy rate. So yeah, that's pretty good. After the dust settled over in Britain, they were basically like, hey, we should be taking control of our colonies again, especially those ones over in the Americas. So at that time, well, a little bit after that, they strengthened navigation acts with stuff like the Board of Trade, which developed mercantilist policies over the colonies. So yeah, along with that, they also put in the Molasses Act, which was a tax on non-British imports of sugar. That's one of those first actual major taxes. And spoiler alert, we'll be seeing a lot more of that later in the future. And now we're finally getting to our first major conflict in this story. Just like many cases before, it's a feud between Britain and France. And in this case, it is the French and Indian War. So yeah, the war took place from 1754 to 1763. A lot of the Native Americans in the area allied with the French, as they were tended to be better treated by them compared to the British, especially. Because of the war, there was a lot more British troop activity in America, and the British colonists helped contribute to the war effort against France. The war itself ended in a British victory, and because of that, Britain acquired French Canada and the land east of the Mississippi. Also, something that the British gained was a bunch of war debt. Let's go. So yeah, they got a bunch of war debt, which included 72 million pounds in 1755, and that got hiked up all the way to 129 million pounds in 1764. So yeah, bunch of money lost. The British obviously didn't like having that much debt, so they looked over to their colonies and like, hey, we can get some money from them. So they started putting some taxes on their colonies. And I mean quite a few taxes. You would have to pay 80 pounds just to get a colonial cheeseburger at the time. Come on. These taxes collectively were known as the Intolerable Acts, and they basically get the colonists angry. They didn't feel like they were being treated as proper British citizens by this point due to the amount of taxes they were being made to actually pay. Now, by this time, the British were becoming increasingly more unwelcome in the colonies, and this would eventually peak in the Boston Massacre. 3 years after the Boston Massacre was the Boston Tea Party. Over time, more and more the colonists felt that they weren't having their basic British citizen rights, and this eventually turned into them wanting independence from Britain over the course of the Revolutionary War. The motion for independence was adopted on July 2nd, 1776, and as quoted from Richard Henry Lee, these colonies are and of right out to be free and independent states. Over the course of the war, the colonists did have some victories such as the Battle of Bunker Hill, while the British also had victories such as basically taking over Philadelphia, which was the capital at the time. During the war, though, France became an ally of the colonists, and they managed to help get the British to surrender by basically forcing them to, by surrounding them in the Battle of Yorktown. And whoop-de-doo, the colonists eventually got their independence because of that. Yay!